Daniel lived a life that most would call ordinary. He woke each morning in the quiet little home on Zafira, a planet of soft skies and towering crystal spires, and performed the same routines he had for years. He fixed machines, maintained small engines, and tinkered with devices that no one else seemed to understand. To the neighbors, he was a reliable human, quiet, dependable, and unremarkable. But to Lyra, his wife, he was her world. She saw his gentle smile, the way he could calm a frightened child, the patience he showed when repairing even the smallest malfunctioning device. She loved him dearly, but she did not see him as someone extraordinary. She assumed he was like other humans, clever in small ways but never capable of feats that would touch the stars. Lyra was different from the humans around her. She was a princess of the Nibari, a species whose empire stretched across countless systems. Her people were proud, disciplined, and cautious. Their technology was precise, their knowledge vast, and their military unmatched. From a young age, Lyra had been trained in diplomacy, strategy, and leadership. She had watched countless humans come and go, some daring, most fragile, but none had ever impressed her enough to earn her genuine respect. When she married Daniel, it had been more out of curiosity and a desire to connect with a species she did not fully understand than admiration. He was kind, gentle, and loyal, enough for a human husband, but he seemed so ordinary compared to the heroes and leaders of her own people. The day began like any other. Daniel brewed coffee in the tiny kitchen, while Lyra floated beside him, her long, shimmering hair catching the morning light. Outside, the Zafira skyline shimmered as sunlight refracted through the crystalline towers. Birds, native to the planet, sang melodies unfamiliar to human ears, yet soothing in their rhythm. Daniel sipped his coffee, humming softly, while Lyra watched the humans and aliens walking through the streets below. The city was peaceful, almost deceptively so. "Do you ever wonder if life is bigger than this?" Lyra asked suddenly, her voice soft but carrying a hint of unease. Daniel looked at her, his eyes steady and calm. "Life is whatever you make it, Lyra. Ordinary or extraordinary, it is yours to shape." Lyra smiled, though unease lingered in her expression. She had spent years among her people, seeing the power struggles, the endless calculations, and the constant pressure to prove oneself. To her, humans were simple, limited, and often too cautious. Daniel was a good man, but he was simple too. She had married him for comfort, companionship, and curiosity. She had never expected him to change her understanding of the universe. Her thoughts were interrupted by a sudden flash on the city's main observation screens. Across the horizon, a drifting object appeared in orbit, a large, metallic form unlike any known ship in current Nibari records. Lyra's sharp instincts kicked in immediately. She leaned over the console, analyzing the readings. "That's
not a Nibari ship," she said quietly, more to herself than anyone else. Daniel came closer, his brow furrowed.
"What is it?" "Unknown," she admitted. "But it is massive. Unknown. And it doesn't match anything in our current archives." The human tilted his head slightly, studying the readings. He did not panic or marvel in awe. Instead, he walked toward the command console with quiet determination. "I want to see it up close," he said. Lyra's eyes widened. "Daniel, that could be dangerous. We don't know what it is." "I know," he interrupted gently.
"But I have a feeling something about this tells me it is important."
"Come with me." She hesitated. Nibari instinct screamed caution, but she had known Daniel long enough to trust his intuition. Slowly, she nodded. Together, they boarded a small reconnaissance ship, leaving the safety of Zafira's orbital station. The city below looked peaceful, unaware of the strange visitor hovering in the upper atmosphere. The ship approached the derelict vessel with careful precision. As they drew closer, it became clear that the object was not only old but damaged in ways that suggested it had been abandoned for centuries. Its surface was scarred, and strange symbols, long forgotten by most of the galaxy, were etched into its hull. Lyra felt a shiver run down her spine. She had studied countless warships, both living and relics, but this one was unique. It carried a history she could not place. Daniel's hands moved over the controls with confidence. He scanned the ship, analyzing every detail. Lyra watched in silence, curiosity and worry intertwining. How do you know how to operate this? She asked, her voice a whisper. He smiled faintly. Sometimes the answers are not in records or history books. You have to feel them, understand them in ways others cannot. The human's words were simple, almost philosophical, yet they carried a weight Lyra could not ignore. She had lived a life of rigid rules and precise calculations, but Daniel relied on something different: intuition, creativity, and an uncanny understanding of mechanics that transcended known science. As they boarded the derelict ship, the interior was dark and silent. Dust floated in beams of light streaming through fractured windows. Lyra felt a strange sense of awe, the kind that only comes when standing inside a place filled with forgotten history. Daniel moved confidently, activating panels and consoles with ease. Lights flickered on, ancient systems awakening at his touch. Lyra gasped softly. "No human should know how to do this," she murmured. "I've learned more than I let on," Daniel replied, his eyes calm but focused. "There is more to humans than the galaxy realizes. Sometimes we just wait for the right moment to show it." Lyra watched him work, feeling a growing admiration she had never experienced before. The man she thought she knew so well, the one she considered ordinary, was now revealing something extraordinary. He was unlocking secrets no one else could, a mind capable of bending technology to his will with patience and creativity. Suddenly, the ship trembled. Lyra's heart raced as alarms sounded, echoing through the empty corridors. Daniel did not falter.
"It's stable," he said.
"But someone or something is detecting us." Her eyes widened. "The Nabari fleet." Daniel shook his head. "Not them. Something older. Something alive in its own way." They moved deeper into the ship. Panels glowed, revealing star charts, energy readings, and a network of systems that seemed far more advanced than anything the Nabari had constructed. Lyra's mind raced. Could this ship be a relic of a lost civilization, or perhaps a weapon too dangerous for anyone to control? Daniel approached the central console. His fingers hovered over a panel of glowing symbols. "I think I know how to start it," he said softly. Lyra stepped closer, her breath catching. "Daniel, if this goes wrong..." He smiled at her, calm as ever. "It won't. Trust me." With a decisive movement, he pressed a sequence of symbols. The ship shuddered, lights blazed across its hull, and the hum of engines filled the chamber. Energy flowed in patterns that seemed alive, responding to Daniel's touch. Lyra watched in astonishment as the ancient vessel began to awaken, its systems aligning with his commands as though recognizing him. "Impossible," she whispered. "How? How is this possible?" Daniel turned to her, his expression gentle but resolute. "I told you, Lyra. Humans are not ordinary. We see possibilities others cannot. We adapt. We endure. This is just the beginning." As the derelict ship powered up fully, a wave of energy pulsed outward, detectable even across Saphira's orbit. Somewhere in the galaxy, sensors blinked furiously, alarms sounded, and distant fleets took notice. Lyra realized with a mix of awe and fear that her husband was no longer just a quiet human engineer. He had become a force capable of challenging centuries of established power. She looked at him, eyes wide with realization. "Daniel, you could change everything." He smiled, calm as always. I hope so, but first, I want to show you what humans are truly capable of. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, a canvas of opportunity. The derelict ship, once abandoned and forgotten, now thrummed with life. Daniel stood at the heart of it, ordinary no longer, a quiet human, ready to demonstrate to the galaxy that underestimating humanity was the gravest mistake any species could make. As they prepared to leave Zephira orbit, Lyra felt a mixture of fear, wonder, and excitement. She had married an ordinary man, but the universe had other plans. And she realized for the first time that she had no idea what her husband was truly capable of. The derelict ship surged forward, breaking the orbital boundaries, its course set toward the unknown. Lyra gripped Daniel's arm, her mind racing with possibilities. The galaxy, vast and filled with dangers, was about to discover the true power of humans, and she would be there to witness it all. As they disappeared into the stars, Daniel glanced at her and said quietly, "Pack only what you need, Lyra. This journey, it will change everything." Lyra nodded, unable to find words, her heart pounding. She had thought her husband ordinary, but now she knew the truth. Something extraordinary was about to unfold, and the galaxy would never see humans the same way again. And somewhere deep in the void, ancient sensors began to hum, detecting the awakening of something that had been lost for centuries, waiting for the right hands, human hands, to bring it to life. The derelict ship moved through space with an ease that surprised even Lyra. Its massive hull, once silent and lifeless, now hummed with energy, as if awakened from a centuries-long slumber. Daniel moved through the control chambers confidently, touching panels and screens that flickered to life under his hands. He adjusted readings, rerouted energy, and activated propulsion systems in ways that made Lyra's head spin. Every motion seemed effortless, yet each decision carried precision and understanding that surpassed anything the Nabari had ever created.
This ship, it's incredible, Lyra whispered, floating beside him.
Her eyes scanned the glowing consoles and complex displays. "I don't understand how you can do all this. It's alien, old, and dangerous." "How do you know what to press, what to adjust?" Daniel smiled faintly, not looking up. "Sometimes the universe speaks in patterns, Lyra. You just have to notice them. I've spent my life learning to see things others ignore. Humans, we have a way of connecting ideas that others don't." She shook her head in disbelief. She had always thought humans clever in small ways, able to build or fix simple machines. But this was something entirely different. This was not just skill, it was genius. She realized that the quiet, ordinary man she had married was now showing her that he was capable of reshaping the balance of power in the galaxy. Daniel guided her to a large viewport at the front of the ship. The stars stretched endlessly before them, streaks of light and distant planets glittering in the void. "Look at that," he said softly. "So many systems, so many opportunities, and yet so many underestimate humans." Lyra's gaze followed his, her mind racing. She had spent her life surrounded by her people, the Nabari, who valued logic, order, and obedience above all else. They measured intelligence by how closely someone could follow their rules. Creativity, intuition, and risk-taking were weaknesses in their eyes. And yet, here was Daniel, a single human, bending ancient alien technology to his will, moving a ship that no Nebari had touched in centuries. He was proof of something she had never truly understood. Humans were not limited by rules in the same way. They could adapt, improvise, and innovate in ways the galaxy had never predicted. The ship's engines thrummed, and a soft vibration ran through the floor. Daniel tapped on a console, and the vessel shifted direction slightly. Sensors flickered, showing the approach of distant objects, asteroids, debris fields, and the faint traces of energy signatures that suggested life, or at least surveillance, in nearby space.
We're not alone,
Lyra said quietly.
Daniel nodded. I expected that. The awakening of this ship likely triggered alerts across the sector. Whoever is watching will notice soon. Lyra felt a shiver run down her spine. She had expected the Nabari fleet to detect them, but Daniel's words suggested something different, something more ancient, more watchful. She wondered what else might be out there, waiting for this ship to stir. As they moved further from Zephira, Daniel activated a series of defensive systems. Shields blinked online, energy barriers flowing across the hull. Lyra watched as panels displayed diagrams of the ship's internal systems, weapons arrays, and propulsion engines. She could barely follow the complexity of it, but Daniel's calm confidence was reassuring. "You're amazing," she said softly. "I never realized." Her voice trailed off. Daniel turned to her, eyes steady. "Most don't see it. Humans often appear ordinary because we don't flaunt our abilities. We wait, we learn, and when the time comes, we act." Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden alert. A cluster of fast-moving ships appeared on the sensors, approaching at high speed. The markings were unfamiliar, jagged and alien, unlike anything Lyra had seen in Nabari records. Her heart skipped a beat. "What are those?" Daniel studied the readings, lips pressed into a thin line. "They're not Nabari. They're hunters of some kind. Maybe scavengers, maybe patrols from an unknown empire. Either way, they'll assume this ship is unclaimed and defenseless. They don't know what they're about to face." Lyra floated closer to him, gripping his arm. "Daniel, what do we do? These ships are faster and there are too many of them." He smiled faintly, almost mischievously. "Then we show them what humans can do." In moments, Daniel had activated the ship's hidden weapons systems. Panels glowed, energy beams charged, and long-forgotten cannons powered up. Lyra watched in awe as he moved between consoles, issuing commands, adjusting firing patterns, and synchronizing the systems with precision. He did not panic, he did not hesitate. Each action was calculated, creative, and surprisingly intuitive. The approaching ships appeared confident, assuming they would catch a lone, ancient vessel with minimal resistance. They did not expect a human to be at the helm, much less one who could outthink and outmaneuver them. As the first of the unknown ships fired, Daniel anticipated their trajectory and activated defensive shields. Energy flared as the beams struck and were deflected. He then countered with precise bursts from the derelict's cannons, targeting the engines of the enemy ships. Lyra gasped. "Daniel, you're..." "Incredible." He glanced at her, calm as ever. "Remember what I said. Humans see patterns. We adapt." The battle escalated quickly. Daniel guided the ancient ship with skill that bordered on artistry. The attacking vessels, confident and aggressive, found themselves outmaneuvered at every turn. Every shot they fired was anticipated. Every attempt to flank the ship countered with ingenuity. Lyra, who had once believed her husband ordinary, now realized that his calm, unassuming demeanor masked a mind capable of thinking in ways that even her people could not predict. As the enemy ships began to retreat, Daniel activated a sequence that used the derelict's engines to create a temporary warp field, allowing the ship to vanish from sensors for a few critical moments. Lyra could hardly believe what she was witnessing. "No one should be able to do that," she whispered. Daniel smiled, but his expression was serious.
"It's not about power alone, Lyra. It's about understanding, creativity, and timing."
Humans have survived by thinking differently. That's why we are underestimated. And that's why we will succeed. The unknown ships retreated, their sensors unable to track the ancient vessel. Lyra floated beside Daniel, her mind racing. The quiet human she had married had just defeated an unknown fleet using an abandoned ship. Technology that no one had understood for centuries. Her entire perception of humans, of Daniel, had shifted in hours.
Why didn't you tell me you could do this? She asked softly.
He shrugged, still calm. I didn't think it mattered until now. Most humans don't reveal their full abilities. We wait for the right moment. Woo! The ship drifted further into uncharted space. Lyra looked out at the stars, her mind filled with wonder and excitement. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers and opportunities, and Daniel was ready to face it all. She realized that the life she thought was simple and ordinary was only the beginning. With Daniel, nothing would ever be ordinary again. As they navigated through asteroid fields and uncharted systems, Daniel explained his plan. He intended to bring the derelict ship fully online, explore its capabilities, and discover what other powers it might hold. The Nibari and other empires would eventually take notice, and he wanted humans to be ready, not as pawns, but as equals, capable of shaping their own destiny. Lyra listened, fascinated. Not only her husband, but all humans. They were clever, adaptable, and courageous in ways that no rigid empire could predict. Daniel was proof of that, and she felt a surge of pride and awe. Hours turned into days as they traveled deeper into unknown space. Daniel worked tirelessly mapping the ship's systems, activating long-dormant engines, and decoding ancient star charts. Lyra assisted when she could, but mostly she observed, learning more about Daniel and humans than she had ever known. Then, one day, a new signal appeared on the sensors. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but it carried a weight that made Lyra's pulse quicken. The signal originated from a nearby system, one that was uncharted and unknown. Daniel studied it carefully, eyes narrowing.
This could be important, he said.
Or dangerous. Either way, we need to investigate. Lyra floated beside him, anticipation and worry intertwined. What is it? He shook his head. I don't know yet. But whatever it is, humans will face it head on, like we always do. As the ship altered its course toward the unknown signal, Lyra realized that the quiet life she had once known on Zephyr was gone. Her husband, the man she had thought ordinary, was now at the forefront of an adventure that could change the galaxy, and she would be by his side, witnessing humanity's potential unfold. The stars stretched before them, endless and mysterious. Lyra knew one thing for certain. She had married an extraordinary man, and the universe was about to see what humans could truly achieve. Somewhere in the darkness of space, unseen eyes watched. The awakening of the derelict ship, the actions of a single human, and the courage of a species that had long been underestimated. All of it was being noted, and the galaxy, vast and endless, was beginning to understand a truth that could not be ignored. Humans were far more than they appeared, and Daniel was the first to prove it. The derelict ship moved through space with a quiet power, gliding past asteroid fields and distant star systems. Lyra floated beside Daniel in the control chamber, watching him work. Every movement he made seemed effortless, as if he and the ancient vessel were connected in some unspoken way. Panels lit up at his touch. Energy flowed through circuits that had been dead for centuries, and engines hummed with a life of their own. Lyra could not stop thinking about how extraordinary he had become. Are you sure this is safe? She asked, voice tight with worry. We're far from Zephyr, and we don't know what might be out there. Daniel smiled, calm as always. The galaxy is never entirely safe, Lyra, but humans survive by thinking ahead, by trusting our instincts. This ship is powerful, yes, but we control it. That makes all the difference. She nodded, though her mind still raced. The unknown signal they had followed had led them to a small system, barely mapped in any records. The planets were dark, covered with clouds of dust and ice, and the stars seemed distant and cold. Lyra felt a chill as she looked at the readings. Something about this system felt alive. The energy signatures were subtle, yet they carried weight. Someone, or something, was watching. Daniel studied the sensors, his expression serious. "These readings are unusual. Whoever or whatever is here is advanced, but it is not aggressive yet. That could change if they detect us." Lyra glanced at him, eyes wide. "And if they do?" Daniel's fingers danced over the controls, activating shields and recalibrating engines. "Then we show them what humans can do." As if on cue, the first ships appeared. They were unlike any Lyra had seen before, sleek, angular, with surfaces that seemed to absorb light. The sensors detected weapons and engines that far exceeded anything Daniel had encountered. Yet he did not flinch. He studied their formation, reading patterns, predicting movements, and analyzing weaknesses. Lyra's breath caught. "How can you do that?" she whispered. "They're so advanced, and there are more of them than us."
Daniel looked at her with steady eyes.
Humans don't just rely on strength. We think differently.
"We adapt. We find solutions when others see only problems."
The enemy ships approached cautiously, testing the ancient vessel's defenses. Daniel activated energy shields and moved the ship in a way that seemed almost like a dance. The enemy fired, and beams of energy struck the shields with a flash of light, but the derelict remained unharmed. Daniel countered with bursts from hidden cannons, targeting the engines of the approaching vessels. They dodged and swerved, but Daniel anticipated every movement. Lyra's eyes widened as she realized the full extent of what was happening. Daniel was not only controlling the ship, he was predicting the enemy's actions before they even occurred. The human mind, with all its creativity and intuition, was outperforming technology that had been built to dominate the galaxy. Minutes turned into tense moments, each second stretching as the battle unfolded. Daniel's commands were precise and deliberate. He activated automated turrets, redirected energy to reinforce weak points, and used the ship's ancient propulsion systems to perform maneuvers no one thought possible. Lyra could barely keep up, yet she was mesmerized. "You're incredible," she said softly, her voice full of awe. "I never imagined a human could do this." He glanced at her, eyes calm. "I told you, we wait for the right moment. Then we act." The enemy ships, confident in their numbers and firepower, began to realize that their attacks were futile. Each move they made was countered with creativity. Each attempt to corner the derelict ship met with strategy they had not anticipated. Lyra felt a surge of pride and disbelief. The man she had thought ordinary was now rewriting the rules of engagement in real time. Then Daniel did something unexpected. He used the ship's engines to create a gravitational distortion, a technique no one had attempted in centuries. The enemy ships were thrown off balance, their formations disrupted, and their energy weapons misaligned. The derelict ship moved with uncanny precision, striking the attackers' weak points with calculated bursts of energy. Lyra could not believe her eyes. "How did you even think of that?" she asked, amazed. Daniel smiled faintly. "Humans see possibilities. Others ignore. We experiment. We learn from mistakes, and we find solutions when others surrender to fear." The enemy fleet faltered. Panic spread among their crews as they realized that one human, in control of a long-forgotten ship, was outmaneuvering them at every turn. Lyra felt a rush of adrenaline. She had always known humans were clever, but this was beyond anything she had imagined. As the battle continued, Daniel's focus never wavered. He anticipated every move, adapted to every threat, and turned the derelict ship into a weapon of precision. Lyra watched in awe as the enemy ships began to retreat, their confidence shattered. One by one, they disappeared into the void, unable to match the ingenuity and skill of a single human. When the last enemy ship vanished from sensors, Daniel deactivated the weapon systems and allowed the derelict ship to drift quietly through space. Lyra floated beside him, her mind racing. "You did it," she said softly. "You defeated them. All of them." He shrugged, calm and composed. They were unprepared. They assumed humans were weak, limited, ordinary. They made the mistake of underestimating us. Lyra reached for his hand, gripping it tightly. "You are extraordinary," she said, her voice filled with wonder. I never realized what humans could do." Daniel smiled, but his expression was serious. "Most of the galaxy hasn't realized it yet, and they won't until they face it directly." The derelict ship continued its journey, moving deeper into uncharted space. Daniel had a plan. He would explore the systems nearby, study the ancient technology fully, and prepare for the inevitable encounters with other civilizations. Humans had been underestimated for too long, and now was the time to show the galaxy what they were capable of. Days passed as they traveled through the system, scanning planets, analyzing energy signatures, and activating the ship's hidden systems. Lyra assisted when she could, but mostly she observed, learning more about Daniel and the human mind with each passing hour. She realized that creativity, intuition, and adaptability were as much weapons as any laser or missile. Humans had survived and thrived in ways the Nabari could never predict, and Daniel was proof of that. Then a new signal appeared on the sensors. This one was faint, almost imperceptible, but it carried a pattern that Daniel immediately recognized. "This is different," he said. "Someone, or something, is communicating. And they know we're here." Lyra leaned closer, eyes wide. "Who could it be?"
Another fleet?
Daniel shook his head. "Not a fleet. Something intelligent. Something patient. We need to respond carefully." He activated a series of communications arrays, sending a carefully coded signal back to the source. Minutes passed in tense silence, the derelict ship drifting through the empty void as they waited for a response. Finally, a reply came, a series of symbols and patterns that Daniel decoded with ease. The message was clear. The sender had been watching, and they were intrigued by the human who controlled the ancient vessel. Lyra's heart raced. They want to meet you?" Daniel nodded. "Yes. And this is our chance to show them what humans are capable of. Not just to fight, but to think, to create, to survive in ways no other species can." The derelict ship altered its course, moving toward the source of the signal. Lyra floated beside Daniel, her mind filled with anticipation and awe. She had married an ordinary man, or so she thought. Now she realized that he was extraordinary, a human capable of shaping the future of the galaxy with ingenuity, courage, and vision. As they approached the system, strange structures came into view. Massive rings of metal and crystal floated in orbit around a small planet, pulsating with energy. Lyra's eyes widened. "What is this place?" she whispered. Daniel studied the structures carefully. "This is ancient technology, far older than the Nibari or any known empire. Whoever built this had knowledge and skill beyond imagination, and they are watching us closely."
Lyra felt a mixture of fear and excitement.
The stakes were higher than ever, yet Daniel remained calm, focused, and confident. She realized that human courage was not just about bravery, it was about thinking differently, adapting and acting when others hesitated. The derelict ship moved closer to the structures, engines humming softly. Daniel activated the ship's systems, interfacing with the ancient technology in ways that made Lyra's head spin. Lights flashed, energy flowed, and the structures responded to his commands as if recognizing his understanding. Lyra floated beside him, unable to hide her admiration. "You're extraordinary," she said again, her voice filled with awe. "I never imagined." Daniel smiled, his eyes calm.
This is what humans do, Lyra. We take the impossible and make it real.
"We adapt. We survive. We create. And when the galaxy underestimates us, we show them what they have been missing." As the derelict ship integrated with the ancient structures, a wave of energy pulsed across the system, detectable even from distant star systems. Somewhere, intelligent eyes watched, recording, analyzing, and taking note of the human who had awakened the long-forgotten power. Lyra realized, with a mixture of pride and awe, that the quiet man she had married was no longer ordinary. He was extraordinary, a symbol of humanity's potential, a living proof that the galaxy had underestimated humans at its own peril. And as the derelict ship hummed with energy, moving through the ancient structures, Lyra knew one thing for certain. The final test was coming. And Daniel, and humanity, would be ready. The derelict ship hummed like a living being, fully awakened after centuries of silence. Daniel floated in the control chamber, eyes scanning the panels, fingers dancing over glowing symbols. Lyra stood beside him, heart pounding, awe and fear intertwined. They were no longer just drifting through space. They had become part of something far greater. The ancient structures around the small planet pulsed with energy, responding to the ship as if it recognized Daniel's touch. "We need to be careful," Lyra said, her voice tight with tension. "Whoever built this, whoever is watching, they're powerful. We can't underestimate them." "So?" Daniel smiled faintly, calm as ever. "Humans survive by understanding the unknown and finding ways to turn it into an advantage. That's what we do." Lyra nodded, but inside she felt the weight of what lay ahead. The energy readings from the structures were immense. They could feel it even through the hull of the derelict ship. Whoever or whatever had built this system had the power to destroy fleets, perhaps even planets. And yet, Daniel did not seem afraid. He had a confidence born of experience, intuition, and the quiet brilliance of a human mind that refused to be ordinary. A new signal appeared on the sensors, stronger this time. It was intelligent, deliberate, and filled with curiosity. Daniel analyzed it quickly, understanding the language patterns and decoding the meaning. "They want to communicate directly," he said.
They know we are not like others. They've noticed something different about humans.
Lyra's eyes widened. "Different? Like how?" "Like unpredictable, adaptable, and capable of thinking in ways that no empire could anticipate," he replied. "They're testing us, but they don't know yet what humans can truly do." The signal transformed into a visual projection. Lyra gasped. Massive ships, far larger than anything in the Nabari fleet, appeared in orbit. They were sleek, almost organic in design, with shimmering surfaces that reflected starlight. The beings inside were not humanoid. They had forms that seemed fluid, constantly shifting. Yet their presence radiated intelligence and power. "They're watching us," Lyra whispered, gripping Daniel's arm. "And judging."
This is overwhelming.
Daniel remained calm. "Then we show them humanity." He moved through the control chamber, activating every system the derelict ship had to offer. Energy flowed through ancient conduits, shields strengthened, and long-dormant weapon systems roared to life. The ship's power was unmatched, yet Daniel did not rely on brute force alone. He relied on strategy, creativity, and understanding, qualities humans had mastered over millennia. The alien fleet observed silently, their forms shimmering with curiosity. They had never encountered a species that could awaken such an ancient vessel and control it with precision. Most species would have panicked or failed entirely. Humans, however, had adapted, survived, and now held the advantage. Daniel sent a communication back, not a threat, but a demonstration of intent. He did not attack. He showed understanding, control, and ingenuity. Lyra watched as the energy of the derelict ship aligned perfectly with the orbital structures, creating patterns of light that shimmered across space. It was a display of coordination and intelligence, a language the aliens could understand. "Why are you doing this?" Lyra asked. "They could destroy us at any moment." Daniel turned to her, eyes steady. "Because humans do not fight blindly. We show our strength through creativity and understanding first. Power without intelligence is wasted."
If they see what we can do, they will respect it. Or fear it. Either way, humans are no longer invisible.
The alien fleet shifted, forming new patterns in space, signaling their recognition of the humans' ingenuity. One of the massive ships moved closer, its energy readings pulsating in sync with the derelict vessel. Lyra could feel the tension in the air, a silent acknowledgement of a battle that was not fought with weapons alone, but with intellect, strategy, and vision. Daniel adjusted the ship's systems, creating a network of energy flows that connected the derelict ship and the orbital structures. The patterns danced across the void, creating pathways of light and power that even the aliens could not ignore. Lyra watched, astonished, as Daniel orchestrated a display of precision that no one had thought possible. Every move was calculated, yet flexible, allowing for adaptation in real time. The alien fleet paused, seemingly impressed. Their signals became more deliberate, communicating without words, a dialogue of energy and intent. Daniel understood it instinctively, responding with patterns that matched their curiosity, yet maintained human originality. Lyra realized that what was happening was not a battle in the traditional sense. It was a test, a challenge of intelligence, creativity, and courage. "Humans, we adapt," Daniel said softly, more to himself than anyone else. "We survive, and we rise when others underestimate us." Lyra felt her heart swell with pride. She had seen Daniel's brilliance before, but this was on a scale that the galaxy had never witnessed. The quiet engineer, the ordinary husband, had become the living embodiment of human potential. Then the alien fleet made a move. One massive ship detached from the formation, approaching the derelict vessel cautiously. Its energy readings were immense, capable of overwhelming the human-controlled ship with brute force. Lyra tensed, but Daniel did not panic. "Watch closely," he said. "Humans do not rely on power alone. We think differently. That's why we survive."
He activated a new sequence, using the derelict ship's engines and energy systems to create a field of distortion. It was not destructive, it was strategic.
The approaching alien ship slowed, disrupted by patterns it could not predict or counter. Daniel's creativity had turned their strength into an advantage. Lyra gasped. "You're controlling them without even attacking?" Daniel nodded. "Exactly. Humans understand patterns, systems, and psychology. We do not need to destroy to win. We adapt, anticipate, and redirect. The galaxy underestimates that." The alien ship retreated slightly, acknowledging the human superiority in strategy. Lyra could feel the tension in the room as the rest of the fleet watched, realizing that this single human in control of an ancient vessel had turned the tables. Their vast numbers, advanced technology, and centuries of dominance were not enough to overcome ingenuity, intuition, and adaptability. Daniel continued to manipulate the ship and the orbital structures, creating a network of energy and information that communicated human intelligence, creativity, and resilience. Lyra watched in awe, realizing that the galaxy was witnessing the first proof that humans were more than survival specialists. They were innovators, problem solvers, and a force to be reckoned with. Hours passed as the derelict ship and the alien fleet engaged in this silent battle of intellect and strategy. Daniel remained calm, focused, and precise, while Lyra marveled at every decision he made. She had thought she knew him, but now she understood that his ordinary demeanor had concealed a mind capable of reshaping the balance of power in the galaxy. Finally, the alien fleet withdrew. Their signals indicated acknowledgement, respect, and perhaps fear. They had encountered a species that could not be underestimated, one that used intelligence, creativity, and courage to challenge even the most advanced civilizations. Lyra floated beside Daniel, heart racing, her eyes wide with admiration. "You did it," she whispered. "You showed them all of it." Daniel smiled, calm and modest. "Humans always find a way. We survive. We adapt. We rise. That's what makes us extraordinary." The derelict ship hummed softly, its systems stabilizing. energy flowing evenly through the hull. Daniel guided it back into safe space, away from the alien fleet, but the impact of their encounter would ripple across the galaxy. Lyra realized that they had not only survived, they had made history. The journey back to Zephyra was quiet, filled with reflection. Lyra floated beside Daniel, thinking of the human species she had once underestimated. They were clever, creative, resilient, and brave. And Daniel, the man she had married thinking he was ordinary, had just proven that humans could stand alongside the greatest civilizations of the galaxy. When they returned to the planet's orbit, the city below seemed peaceful, almost unaware of the events unfolding in the void above. Lyra gazed out the viewport, thinking of the stories she would one day tell, stories of courage, ingenuity, and the human spirit. "Do you think the galaxy is ready for us?" she asked quietly. Daniel looked out at the stars, calm and confident. "The galaxy doesn't get to decide when humans are ready. Humans create their own path. And now, the galaxy will learn not to underestimate us." Lyra reached for his hand, feeling pride and love stronger than ever. She had married an ordinary human, or so she thought. Now she knew the truth. Daniel, and by extension all of humanity, was extraordinary. Somewhere in the distance, sensors across the galaxy recorded the awakening of the derelict ship, the actions of a single human, and the courage of a species that refused to be ignored. Whispers of the human who had outsmarted an alien fleet began to spread. The galaxy would never see humans the same way again. As Daniel guided the ship safely into Zephyra's orbit, Lyra realized that their adventure was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, filled with unknown civilizations, challenges, and opportunities. But she had no doubt that with Daniel, humans would not only survive, they would thrive, innovate, and rise to legendary status. And as the derelict ship settled into the orbital station, Daniel turned to Lyra with a quiet smile. "She thought I was ordinary," he said softly, "but the galaxy will never make that mistake again."
Lyra smiled back, knowing it was true.
The ordinary human she had loved had become extraordinary, and the story of humanity was only beginning.